Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of Bad Movies Rule. I'm here with Nicole Freer, and we have the amazing opportunity to speak with the star of such amazing films like Masters of the Universe, Last Boy Scout, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, the jewel of Jewel City, Glendale, California, Miss Chelsea Field. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah. So we've had recently, the most recent film of yours we covered was The Last Boy Scout, but we've been through a lot of the ones that are on your filmography. And as we started to look back, because once we have a lot of an actor that's appeared in a lot of movies that have been on our show, I get curious and want to dig in. And most people when they want to pursue a career in entertainment, they've got to get on the bus from Iowa, and go out to LA. But you kind of were already up there. You grew up in LA. Did you grow up around the entertainment business? Were your parents involved in it at all?
No. So it really was just like I would getting on a bus and coming to LA, because I was raised kind of on the border of La Crescenta and Glendale. And my dad had a boarding and training stable down in Burbank, horses. He was a horse trainer. He had two jobs. And and my parents were from England, so I had no relatives here. All of our relatives were in England. So we were kind of this nuclear family that people would say, oh, we went to our family vacation and hung out with our cousins. And I'm like, what's a cousin? So we would go almost every month to a horse show. And that was, I guess, a vacation. I mean, that was what we did. We never had like a family vacation. And we did go back to England a couple of times, and I met all my relatives back there. But, living in that area, Glendale and La Crescenta, it was I can remember I didn't go to Westwood until I was like 16 or 17 to see a movie. Wow. And I don't remember ever going downtown LA. So it was pretty much everything that I needed was up there. Yeah. And, my mom was a singer, but she did a lot of amateur singing and amateur theater. And I'm obviously got influenced by that. Yeah.
Right. And was your mom a dancer at all too, or no?
No, she loved to dance, but she wasn't. The way dance got in was in high school, I took a dance class for PE, and they took us to some not convention, but it probably would be like a convention now, where there were other dance teachers. And there was one dance teacher who the way he taught, I fell in love with it. And at the time he was teaching in Sherman Oaks. Well, this was like going to another state, because I wasn't driving at the time. Oh. And I can remember my mom took me a couple of times, and it was from Glendale to Sherman Oaks. It was really far in those days.
Did you go by horse?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to find out. Yeah.
No, it's important.
No. Yeah. But as soon as I got my license, I was there 3 or 4 times a week. And then and then my dance teacher said, if you're serious, you need to go take ballet. And then I started doing that. So awesome. That's how that all got started. And at the same time, my parents were breaking up. So it was sort of a perfect avenue for me to sort of drown my fears and anger and sorrows and stuff was in dance class. So.
Yeah. And I've heard you talk before about how, when you were 16, you were dead set on, I want to be a dancer. That is what I'm going to do. But then by the time, and if I get the age wrong, you can correct me, but by the time you were about 20, you were like, no, forget it. I don't want to do this anymore. Did the gig on the Solid Gold Dancers break you, or what made you not want to be a dancer anymore?
That's intense.
Yeah, pretty much. That was, it wasn't my last dance gig, but it was one of my last. So I was a little bit older than 20, but I had done a lot of really fun gigs and really great dancing. And I come from back east, where I'd done this really wonderful show with Ronnie Lewis. And I was the principal, I was the lead, and I had I did a bunch of lifts, and it was fabulous. Yeah. And then when I came back I went on the road singing as a singer, and just had a bunch of bands. I did a bunch of gigs with bands. And when I came back, I tried to get work, and I just couldn't get work. And then finally Solid Gold came along, and obviously I took it, but I really didn't think that I was going to keep dancing. Oh. And then I was already taking acting classes. So I kind of knew, this is going to be over soon. And, and I was doing Solid Gold during the day. And then I would drive down to Orange County to Los Alamitos, next to the horse track, where I sang in a Mexican restaurant in the bar from 9 until 2 in the morning.
In English?
Then I would drive. Then I would drive home.
Oh my!
And then I would get up and be at work at 10 at Solid Gold again.
And Nicole, before we started rolling, you said when you were a kid that Solid Gold Dancers was
The quintessence of fancy, like the most glamorous I can imagine. When I read that you had been on there, I was like, oh, she's amazing. So I continue to believe that you are amazing. And it's just it's an honor.
Yeah. So apparently that's as fancy as you can be, is to be on Solid Gold Dancers. Right.
The moves.
It was a very good gig. We made a lot of money, which, we did. We made a lot of money, and it was a lot of fun. I just sort of had my blinders on like this, which I did a lot of my younger life. I was sort of very driven and very, knew exactly what I wanted. So I wish I would have enjoyed it more while I was there.
Yeah.
But everybody has that reaction now, although some people are like, oh, were you a gold digger? I'm like, okay, I'm not that old.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And you didn't have to go to the gym because you were working out all the time by dancing. So it was just, you just got to eat and live your life and do your art. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you said that you would be going to auditions at night.
Well, when I was on Solid Gold, I was going to.
Oh, that's right.
She was singing.
The singing
You were doing
gig,
the singing gigs at night, but
But I hadn't really gotten any auditions yet because I was still studying. Somehow I was figuring out how to study acting and all of that. But when I did start auditioning, I started getting jobs in commercials. That's how I first started. And first it was commercials, dancing in commercials. Mm-hmm. Pepsi with Bob Giraldi and a bunch of car commercials. And then I started getting commercials as an actress. I remember I did a huge United Airlines campaign, and Gene, what's the famous actor?
Gene Hackman?
This is terrible. Thank you. Gene Hackman did the voiceover.
Amazing.
Nice.
And I played a mom, and it was a kind of a long national commercial. Nice. And that was my first, like, oh my God, I get to be an actress. And then, bridged over into TV and film.
That feeling lasts for a good while. So I'm glad you got to feel those fussies. That's great. I have an audition question for you. Do you have any stories of just auditions where something went wrong or they asked something of you that was a little bit insane?
I got to imagine auditioning in the 80s was a lot different than it is now.
Yeah. No. There was some. Okay, I'll tell you a story, but I can't name the person.
That's fine. That's
Perfect.
Fine.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So I was auditioning for a very, very, very big movie, and I had just had a baby. And I went in, and it was a meeting, and so I didn't read anything. So that was unusual because normally I was always reading. Mm-hmm. And I went in, and I sat down, and this big director, was showing me, set design models, and it's going to be like this, and just really like talking me up the movie, Mm-hmm. And I wasn't used to that. So I was kind of like, what's going on? Like, just let me read something so I can read for the part,
right. Yeah.
But he was sort of selling me on this movie, and I was like, okay, fascinating. And then he turned to me and started asking some personal questions like, oh, I heard you just having a baby. And I said, yeah. And he's like, how old? And I answered. And then he said, but you're not married? And I was like, nope. And then he said, well, do you live with the father? I said, nope. And he's like, well, is the father involved? I mean, is that? And I went, I guess. Because I could just tell he wanted this information. And the more he asked, I kind of wanted to say, it's none of your effing business.
That's it.
Chelsea, I'm ready to jump out the window right now.
Exactly.
And I don't even,
Yeah. Give me the phone number.
And I'm thinking, what? Like, stop asking me questions about something. And I was just, all the answers were super evasive. Then I finally leave, and I get up, and I'm walking down he walks me out of his office, and I'm walking down this long hallway to go to the elevator. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know you're looking at me up and down. Right. And I, push the button. I turn around. Sure enough, he's standing there getting me on the elevator. I guess he wanted to make sure I got on safely.
Oh.
And then
Sure.
I said to my agents right afterwards, they said, how'd it go? And I said, he's looking for a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or a wife or something.
Yeah.
And they said, really? And then the girl who got it became his wife.
No way.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, all right, my spidey senses were right on.
Man, oh man, you were dialed into that. He was really concerned about elevator safety, or
Right.
he had ulterior motives.
Yeah. Some people really are concerned about elevators, so it's possible.
No, it's true.
It's true.
Wow.
Maybe they'd had trouble with that elevator.
I'm sorry, Chelsea. Well, let's shift into the start of your film career, because judging by your first couple of credits, what would you say, what role did Canon Films play in your breaking into the industry?
It was everything, because at the time I was living on the ranch at my dad's at the stable.
Yeah.
There was a little 1-bedroom house there, and my dad rented it to me, and I loved it. I loved living in LA. I loved living on this 4-acre ranch. It was absolute heaven. I mean, can you imagine?
Right.
50 head of horses and peacocks and chickens and dogs and cats and horses, and I have this little house on the property. It was so awesome. And then I would, run into an audition or whatever.
Yes.
But I auditioned so many times for that movie. I mean, it had to be like maybe 7 times I went in.
Wow.
And I think I spoke with Gary Goddard many years later. And I think the problem was Gary wanted me, but the producers were very worried about hiring somebody who hadn't done any films at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I might have.
Was Commando before that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had done Commando, and there was something else maybe that I did. I think Masters was the end of Canon, wasn't it?
It was
Didn't
towards
they
the end.
implode?
They were running out of money.
Yeah.
They had to scramble at the end there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember the exact. I think Commando might have been after.
Okay.
Because so they were very nervous. So they kept calling me in, and Gary would say, "Okay, now and there was not a lot of dialogue. There was make 1 or 2 lines. There was not even a scene. There was a scene with me saying 2 lines with John Cipher and, Billy Barty or something.
Right.
So
I'm sure it was more of annoying to go in, but at least you probably weren't super nervous because you didn't have to memorize and try to do 7 different things in your head at once. Just keep showing up.
Yeah. And, but then they were like, okay, now, pretend that the laser, fighting is going on. So I'm like this all over, and then jumping over the couch and hiding behind the chair. And it was just,
yeah.
So after that, I can remember exactly. It's one of those moments where, when something either really wonderful or also really horrible happens, and you have sense memory of you can see exactly where you were.
Yeah.
You can smell, you can hear. I was in my living room in my little house on the stable, and my agent called. And they said, "You got it." And I threw my arms up like this, like a touchdown. And I remember feeling like I had run the touchdown goal at the Super Bowl in the last 5 seconds and won the game. It was the greatest. Never had that feeling again.
That's got to be incredible.
I mean, yeah, it really was. It was so and then the movie was so much fun. And everybody who worked on it, John Cipher, James Tolkien and Courtney and Robbie McNeil and Frank Langella, it was so much fun. We had dinner parties, and we all became friends. Ann Coates, who was the editor, she was at all the parties, and it was just a really, really fun time.
Well, speaking of which, can I ask what your favorite sandwich at Mr. Mustache was at the time?
What? I have no idea what Mr. Mustache is.
See, I did a little bit of research and said that while you were shooting Masters, that you would go there all the time to eat. And that's why I was curious if you still remembered that place or not.
No.
Okay.
No. Who said that? I said that?
No, I saw it online.
The internet said that.
No.
said it.
No, I think that's wrong, because I'll tell you what I lived on during those days. I lived on, because we shot a lot of nights.
Yeah.
So there was, I don't know, like a month of nights in Whittier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'd be driving to work as everybody, I'd be driving to work at 5 and then coming home at 7 or 6 in the morning.
Whoa.
Right. Wow, man.
And I remember living on hot chocolate with some coffee in it and Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, sure.
My favorite.
I mean, that was literally my diet. And then whatever they would serve for our dinner, our mid-work meal.
I'm so glad we can finally put this nasty Mr. Mustache rumor to rest.
It has to.
And we can get this off the internet.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry about that.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's true.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question because it kind of the way you described your audition, which is you rolling around on the floor and firing an imaginary laser pistol. And I know that you've said previously in some of your other interviews how, you think it's important as an actress to be open and vulnerable and present in the moment. But it's got to be a really difficult assignment to do a movie like Masters, because how do you stay truthful and vulnerable when you've got, Dolph Lundgren running around in a diaper and Frank Langella in Skeletor makeup and all this craziness happening around you? How do you still stay truthful in that.
I mean, when you're doing a sci-fi movie, there is a lot of having to use your imagination, because obviously the guys that were flying by on those little those little air pod things that they're flying by, they weren't there.
Yeah.
Right.
But but Frank was so amazing.
He's great.
And oh my God, like there was no acting necessary when he would speak, because he just was so imposing. And, the mask was terrible because we couldn't really, he had no facial movement or anything, but, he was amazing. So, I mean, it is a lot of like using your imagination when you're in that kind of a thing. And I think it's more in terms of being vulnerable. It's just being there for whatever the scene is asking for, whatever emotion the scene is asking for.
Right.
And I'm sure any movie, when there's a guy with a boom right in front of you, there's still something that takes you out of it anyway. So you just get around it and get back to your character.
Yeah. I mean, that's the rub for any actor is, you're trying to stay focused. And I just had this experience because I just did a theater piece in New Hampshire in the summer with my husband, and it was so fabulous. And, there are things that happen on stage with a live audience that don't happen on film.
Absolutely.
But it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's
it's
it.
like it's like tap dancing. It's pretty great.
Yep.
Was that Man of La Mancha?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. I had read about that, and I love that show, and so that's cool that you guys got to do that together. Was that your first time going back to theater in a while? I know you'd been directing and stuff, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, I did a lot of directing and choreographing and teaching down at the high school arts school, Hamilton
Awesome.
Music Academy.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 10 years. And I love that. It was really fun. And I love working with that age kids. But I haven't done any theater really in probably, I don't know, like 15. I mean, I guess the Hollywood Bowl I was in Guys and Dolls at the Hollywood Bowl with Scott. And that was a blast, but you can't even call that theater because it's, it's like 10 days of work, 4 days of shows.
Yeah.
It's just jam packed. But it was a blast.
Were you Sarah
That
Brown?
was so much fun. No, I was one of the hot box girls.
Okay. I was once Sarah Brown, so I thought I would share that with you.
Oh, I'm sure you would have been great.
Thank you.
I'm sure
very
you were
much.
awesome.
Thank you.
It was, who it was Jessica Biel.
Oh,
And she was fantastic.
Amazing.
wow.
She was amazing. And I think she probably, I don't know this, but I'm sure she was nervous but she had a beautiful voice and she did great. And it was, Scott played Nathan Detroit and then, the 3-name guy, the amazing voice.
Yep. Something. That's
Yes. He did Porgy and Bess, and he did, he's done everything. The main character. Oh, this is terrible.
That's all right.
I'll ask my kid.
We'll
Owen!
Get it?
Who did the lead role in the Hollywood Bowl Guys and Dolls that your dad and I did? Brian Stokes Mitchell. Never mind, I got it myself. Yes.
Amazing. Just
Brian
by
Stokes
asking
Mitchell.
someone
We'll
else.
give Owen credit anyway. Thank you, Owen. That was
Good job,
Thanks, Owen.
You've saved us.
quick question.
And you guys are young.
I'm not that young,
Somewhere
but
in the
I
middle.
appreciate that.
Take it.
We stay young out here in Wisconsin. We don't have, a lot of, we got to chase cows around and stuff. And, so it keeps us young out here.
Yes.
Where in Wisconsin are you? Wisconsin.
Yeah. We're in southeastern Wisconsin. So kind of like Kenosha, Burlington, that area over there. Not that far
Cool.
from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's awesome.
I drive up a little bit from Illinois.
Oh yeah.
I come on over.
But you want to come up to the Dairy State sometime, and have some PBR. It's great up here,
Yes, so I have 2 friends that are from that area, and their accents just crack me up. And my nephew just moved there in Wisconsin somewhere. But yeah,
love it.
So I probably will be visiting there.
Awesome.
Excellent.
All right. So next question I had is just to stay on process here for a little bit. There was an interview recently when you had been working with Scott on New Orleans. Sorry, I just blanked for a second.
NCIS, yeah.
NCIS, yeah. And so he talked about how working with you was a little bit of a challenge at first because, as he put it, you tend to work more deeply and intensely than he does. Those were his words, not mine. We give out an award every episode, whatever movie we're covering, for the actor that had the most intensity. I value intensity and performance personally. So to hear him say that, I was like, well, I got to ask her, what do you think he means by that? If you could unpack that, what does it mean to act with intensity?
I think, he's a natural, and he started working pretty early as an actor. And I actually don't know too much about where he, who he studied with in New York, but the guy I studied with was pretty much a method teacher.
Yeah.
So I kind of come from that, sense memory, song and dance, that kind of whole line of acting. And I think the easiest way to explain it, and one's not right or wrong, but like, I would say that I work from the inside out and he works more from the outside in.
Ah, that's an interesting way to put that.
It is.
Yeah. So like sometimes he'll say to me, well, why are you saying the line that way? And I'll say, what do you mean? What way? And he's like, well, you're saying, did you go to the store? And you're emphasizing store.
Right.
You need to say, did you go to the store?
Right.
And I'm like, what? To me is like I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like I would never ever think like that because I'm thinking, I'm pissed off. Why did you go to the store?
Right.
So to me, it's the emotion that drives the thing. But after a while of us sort of questioning each other about our motives and stuff, it really helped us to look at his way of approaching things.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I kind of combine them now.
That's really cool. I call that the musicality of a line. If someone keeps saying it the same way, I try to have him flip it whenever I coach him. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And of course he's a musician and he's a singer. And so he's great at comedy, and comedy is all about timing and the musicality of the lines in comedy. So it makes sense that that's the way he works. And I think, but we've kind of shared so much and not really directed each other, but questioned each other about things in different jobs that we've done. So.
Yeah.
A quick aside, because I have a whole page here of very thoughtful questions I've put a lot of effort into, but there is one dumb question I have to ask because I'm such a mega fan of this person. You got to work with Arnold Schwarzenegger for one scene. Like, is he cool or?
He was, and I had actually met him before because he, I think I met him at a chiropractor's office. I honestly, I can't, I think there was a guy named Franco Commando.
Yeah, Franco
is that a bodybuilder?
Best friend. Yeah, they were best friends.
Yeah. So I think either they shared an office with a chiropractor. Somehow I met him and I was like waiting for my appointment or something. And he came out and was talking and stuff. And he seemed like a very nice guy. And I mean, I didn't really spend that much, I guess. He was there and stuff, but what I remember about that movie was that the director, and I'm thinking, is it Mark Lester?
Yes.
Was that the director? Yes.
Yes.
He said to me, and Joel Silver was on the set. I remember that, and he said, "Oh, can you just, say all that stuff that the flight attendant?" I had no lines, or one line, or two lines, or whatever it was, and he says, "Okay, can you just ad lib all that stuff that the flight attendants at the time he was calling them stewardesses say, when you're taking off?" And I was like,
sure.
Yes. And so I grabbed the little thing and I'm like talking out of my rear end and I, making stuff up, but doing, thank God I had taken improv class.
There you go.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Which is the school that I'm from, so I love that even better.
And
awesome.
You bringing up Joel Silver actually is a perfect segue because, you worked on Last Boy Scout with Bruce, and I know Joel Silver was involved with that. And then you've got, from what I've read, some alpha male headbutting happening behind the scenes there with Tony and Shane Black. Couldn't think of the screenwriter's name there for a second. And the four of them all in the same set was a little bit of a recipe for disaster. And so I'm curious how much you were shielded from that, or was it a tense set to be on with all of that stuff going on? Do you remember?
I mean, I don't remember Shane being particularly a lot of testosterone. I don't remember that. But also I wasn't privy to seeing him in a meeting or anything. So,
sure.
But I do know that, and again, I have hesitated to do any of these interviews because I really don't want to say anything bad about somebody who's no longer with us.
Yeah. And it's not,
and also somebody who's not, who's not 100% healthy.
Sure.
So, but I can say that Bruce was what?
I was just saying the overall vibe, maybe.
Yeah.
You just say, how was the...
I'm just, when I read all that, I was just curious what it was like to be on set, not necessarily to put anybody on blast, but just to say as an actor and what it's like to work in that environment. Do you know what I'm saying?
So I can tell you a couple of stories. One, it was, Bruce was a doll. He was wonderful, but he at that time was huge and he came with this huge package, the big, huge, gigantic trailer and the, the entourage. And Tony was also, big, and as was Joel. So that with these three very larger than life characters,
right.
And Joel, who I had seen in his office, just, like annihilating people. And I remember thinking, oh God, I hope I'm never on the bad end of that one,
Right.
Yeah, I've heard stories. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was it's complete dear one to me. Awesome. He was so dear. But when I saw that, I was like, holy moly. So that it was a big package. It was a lot of energy. It was a lot of guy energy.
Yes.
And a lot of like staging of camera and is it going to look better like this, or am I going to look better like that? A lot of that stuff going on. I can remember going to the set and seeing that and thinking, when are we going to rehearse?
Yeah.
Well, and then
can we rehearse the scene?
Right.
And that's at the period of time where they're burning money on a daily basis, right? Yeah.
So that opening scene, which is sort of, become well known.
Yes.
With Bruce McGill and me and him in the closet and all this
Fantastic
stuff.
Scene. Fantastic.
That scene, I'm telling you, I don't even know how many takes, but it was just on me.
Yeah.
It had to be 70.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Easily. And probably, 10 to 15 setups.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so much. They were just burning through film like there's no tomorrow.
And were you getting a direction every time, or just do it again?
I haven't told the story in public before, but I think I will now.
Okay.
Yay.
Thanks in advance.
And again, this is, it is a story to say that, there's a lot of ways that people work that to me is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And at my age now, I do speak up, and I just say, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. And luckily lately, all I've had is wonderful, wonderful experiences. But we were shooting that scene, and the camera was on me, and he must have had me do it, like I said, 70 times. Yeah. This way, that way. And I'm just going to say, it's like, do it green, do it yellow, do it pink, do it red, do it magenta. Oh, now add a little blue there. Now, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
I'm using an analogy of paint, right? But he was like, and I consider myself an actress who has a lot in her toolbox.
Yeah.
So he'd say, for instance, do it on the verge of tears. So I would say, give me a second, and I would have the tears, and they would be brimming right here.
Yeah.
And he'd say, action, and I would do it. And then I'd say, well, do you want me to blink and have the tear come down, or do you want me that's how specific I was being, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it just went on and on and on until he asked me to do it while on the verge of tears, which I did. And he came up and said, he took my hand like this, my head like this, and he said, look at me, because I was looking down, because I was holding the emotion in case he said, do it again, or, another take, action, whatever. And he took my hand like this, and he went and slapped me so hard that so much furious shame came up, to the point where I was feeling this, but I was also thinking, I was also outside and going, this isn't mine. Yeah. This isn't my fucking shame. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Can I say that? Can I?
Oh, yeah. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
Okay.
You're fine.
And
when you have so many feelings at once, it's really hard to deal with so many feelings at once.
Right.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And he said, and then he stepped away and said, action. And of course, being the disciplined dancer that I was, I did the scene. And as soon as he said cut, I walked out. I got into the bathroom, locked myself in the bathroom. I was obviously hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I am suppressing the tears right now because it's so hard to even talk about.
Of course.
Of course.
And that's something now that I know that people have to go back to their union reps, or there was more support,
protection
that you could have.
Yes. Yeah. And at that time, it was just, I was in there and I was like trying to pull myself together. And the first person that knocked was Bruce, and he said, are you okay?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I just need some time. And of course, whatever age I was also, I'm this fierce, butt kicker, don't fuck with me. I,
and the only
independent,
female
all that
in the room,
Right.
also
Right.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then Tony came, and I walked out, and he was standing there, and he said, I don't even think he apologized. I know he felt bad about it years later because I had an encounter with him, but I just looked at him and I said, "You're lucky I'm not calling my lawyer, and you better fucking use that take." And I walked away. Wow. Now, I knew at the time that it was completely wrong for the scene.
Right.
He had what he needed probably in the first 10 takes,
Right.
So anyways, that's that story. And I honestly, I have a lot of empathy for him. I felt that people can look at it two ways. They can look, well, you were a shitty actress. You weren't giving him what he wanted. Or the way I know it was he was limited as a director in terms of his ability to ask for what he needed. Yeah. Or even know that, oh, I've got it. That's it. That's the scene.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And so it's interesting, like...
Rest in peace, Tony.
Yes.
And congratulations to you for making it through to this new place in your life.
So now I guess it's got to make it hard then when people want to, because it's such an amazing scene. And, to me, when I watch it, I go, oh man, she crushed that, right? Just truthful and honest and we talked about it on the episode. But then when people want to give you praise or say, isn't this great? It's got to be hard for you to even think about or watch that scene given what happened, right?
There were so many takes. They could have edited it to look like anything.
Right.
It could have been anything. You know what I mean? And, kudos to them. They edited a great scene. Right. Yeah. And I just was the instrument that was saying the lines and allowing myself, like everything, as you know, Nicole, you show up, you show up with what you have, and then the rest is up to the editing bay. Right. That's why I kind of love doing theater, because it's different.
Yes,
absolutely.
And they can't change it on you.
No. Because I'll tell you another story about the end of that movie is when I was in Namibia shooting a movie, and
what a cool
when
sentence
they were
to say. I love that. I've never said that sentence before. Please continue. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. So I was in Namibia, and they called my agent and said that they needed to reshoot the ending. And I was like, what? Oh my God, my hair's so much longer, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, because this was months later. Yeah. So I came back. When I got back, because I went to England, was in the hospital for 10 days with parasites. That was fun. From Africa. Right. And then got home, and then they reshot it. And the ending, the reason it was because when they tested it, nobody liked me. Oh. Because I had slept with his buddy.
Oh, come on.
And so they said, we've got to change it so that the audience likes you. And I'm like, what? So they, and that's all that marketing stuff that they do. So they rewrote the scene, and that's the scene that's in the movie, where I walk up with tears in my eyes and I say to him, I'll buy a dog.
Right.
Oh, because if you remember at the beginning, I say, I was lonely. He says, buy a dog.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And then you have to go
through. And I beg to come back, and I say, I'll buy a dog. And I had tears in my eyes for real, because I hated that I had to say that.
Oh,
and like beg his forgiveness.
Yeah. Man,
but, that was my job.
Well, now I obviously 70 takes for your coverage, and then so many more. When Bruce was shooting, was there any element left in you to be surprised, or was it just that you have to just keep finding it within you? Like for us, we're all like, oh, I can't believe he just did that.
When he shoots the picture,
but you've seen it 700 times happen in front of you. Was it because he was shooting? Were you surprised?
Any gas left?
Any part of you?
Yeah, I mean, it's that again. That's the actor's, challenge is you just keep trying to find ways to do that. Yeah. Right. And I would say that whatever takes they use were probably towards the beginning.
Right.
It makes sense. Because then,
by the end, I'm curious because those were all competitive people, obviously on that set. And do you think it's possible to be a really successful actor without being very competitive? Like, is that part, like, do you need that competitiveness to really go far?
I mean, that's an interesting word, competitive. I think you have to have a lot of drive, and you have to be, I think competitive is probably a good word. Mm-hmm. And you have to sacrifice. And I got to a point where I just was not willing to sacrifice my being without my kids.
Sure.
And I tried it, didn't work. It was a nightmare. Came back from a job with Andy Garcia in Canada and just said to my agents, can't go out of town. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so then that cut down a bunch of jobs for me. And then, you know, a number of other things happened, but I chose to raise my kids.
Sure.
You know, so it's just like, so I think sometimes I look at other people's careers and go, damn, you know, I remember when we were auditioning together for that film, and damn, you know,
all of us brunettes in the same room auditioning. I'm probably, you know,
yeah.
Right.
But you know, for me, it didn't. I also started late. I really did start quite late in terms of my acting. So it just didn't, I was competitive, but kind of for all the wrong reasons.
Sure.
And, you know, how your childhood, you know, shades what your adult choices are doing. But I think it takes, I think you have to be very driven. In fact, my business manager said to me, I was so shocked that you know, basically stopped working and raised kids. Like, I never thought in a million years that you would be that person because you were so like driven and
Well, I would say now as a family man myself, that's the right decision. So kudos to you. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you wouldn't give
it goes so fast.
Yeah. And I'm sure you wouldn't give those years back for anything, right? Those time you got to spend with your kids.
Yeah.
Right? You never go wrong doing that.
And my boys are 10 and almost 13 right now. Do they keep eating more every year? Is that how that goes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get a little info.
All right. Perfect.
Thanks.
Yep.
So a question, because I also have worked with high schoolers in high school musical settings. I've directed shows for a local high school and things like that. Not on the level that you've done, but I know of anyone that's worked in high school theater or with students has some funny stories to share in things that have either gone wrong catastrophically or, you know, mishaps and stuff. So if you've got a really good one that you like to share with people, I'd love to hear a theater horror story.
Well, the only one I can think of right now is we did The Wiz, and the person that was doing the costumes she was wonderful, but she had a challenge with time.
Yeah.
And so she would show up very close to half hour and the kids would be freaking out, like, where are their costumes? Yeah. And this must have been opening night because once their costumes were there, they stayed there.
Sure.
And there was some problem and, you know, there was no answering, no texts and calls. And we were down there and the lion did not have his costume. It was so, I remember feeling so helpless because I didn't know what to say to him. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
I was like, and I just said, come out like you're dressed if you have to, you know, and there was nothing else we could do. And I felt so bad for him. He was such a wonderful kid and so talented. And I had to leave backstage and go out, and somehow he came out in the costume. But I think he was Sans something, like Sans the Tail or something, because it literally, she got there like a second before he was going on stage.
No.
And also it just really made me mad because, you know, it's just not fair to do it to that age.
No, and they sit there and they're staring at you like, tell me what to do. And just like,
I just was like, oh my God, I don't know, but this will never happen again.
Oh, well, okay. That's not, I mean, at least nobody fell off a stage and broke a leg literally or anything like that.
No.
I've never had that.
No.
You never fell through a chair.
No, I fell through a chair. That was me.
Really?
As a dancer, you'll appreciate this. It's the middle of a dance number, and I'm supposed to spin, plant myself in the chair, and then my partner sits on my lap. Okay, after me.
Okay.
But when I did my spin and I sat in the chair just went in half in two different directions, and I hit the ground. And she didn't know because she's facing the other way. So then she sits where I'm supposed to be and falls on top of me, and I'm already on the ground. And so and then you just keep going because what else are you going to do but keep going, right? Yes. So I remember saying to her from the ground, get up and just keep going.
Also, you're on my leg.
And also, you're on my leg, right?
Oh gosh.
Well, just a couple more questions, and we can. And just again, thank you for the time. I
of course
want to circle back to a couple quick things. You had mentioned that you sang in a band early on when you were getting started, and so I have to know. And I don't know how often you get to do this, or if you ever get to do this, but as a former lead singer of a band, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Very important question.
Well, first of all, I don't do karaoke.
No.
Oh, never?
I don't think I've ever gone to karaoke.
All right. So if you had to go to
Isn't that
karaoke
weird?
and someone's like, all right, you got to get up and do a song, what's your
Probably Chaka Khan, Ain't Nobody.
Yay!
Yes.
That's a great pull.
Yeah.
I love
And I've never done it, and now I'm going to. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you.
No, it's such a great song. There's some cover of it that I can't remember who the singer is, but it's kind of newer, and I just saw a YouTube of it. She was amazing.
Awesome. And then your acting coach you had mentioned before, is it LeGrant? Is that who you studied under? Or
Yeah. How
Okay.
do you know that?
Well, just I did a little bit of research, Chelsea.
But where is that I studied with David?
I was afraid to say it after I got the Mr. Mustache thing wrong, So
Yeah.
now I suddenly didn't trust any of the research that has happened.
Yeah, he was quite something.
Yeah.
My question is, even now, because I know sadly he passed away some years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even now, is there something that he told you that has stuck with you that you still bring to, recall to memory as you're working and as you're doing your thing? Something that's lasted throughout your career?
There's two things I'll tell you. One was I was doing song and dance, and I don't know if you guys know that exercise, but
No.
it's an exercise. It's a method exercise. And when I finished the exercise, he walks. He's so funny. He's walk in front of everybody, go over to the light switch, turn the light switch on, come back. And he goes, well, there's no spam in that, girl.
Oh.
Meaning I'm 100% ham.
Yes, right.
I would
so
take
that
that.
always killed me.
Amazing. I would say thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know that was particularly a compliment in that
But you
class
can take
because it
it.
was a very serious acting class.
sure.
But,
Sure. Sure.
in the end, I took it that way. But I would say that really the reason I loved his class was because he had it structured where we did exercises on Tuesdays and then scenes on Thursdays. And it was always the same. And it was a little bit tedious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Tuesday class, and you couldn't just show up and do your scenes. You had to go to both classes. And I would say that my discipline of being a dancer and being in ballet, it really loved that. And so, one of the exercises that we did every Tuesday was sense memory. And I use that all the time.
Awesome.
All the time. And even more so as I get older, it's just right there. So it's a wonderful tool.
That's awesome. Well, I have to give credit to our co-host, Joe, who was going to join us for the interview tonight, but his truck broke down on the way here. He's the one that texted me and said, because we've all been knee deep in diving into everything Chelsea Field. He's like, ask her about LeGrant. And I was like, I will. But so he found that, not me. I want to give him credit for that. So
Yay, Joe.
Yeah,
Yay,
Joe
Joe
couldn't be here, but that's okay. But that's really great. I think the people, the coaches, the teachers that helped us along the way, I think they all stick with us in a certain way, a certain, whether it's just advice or just the being there and all that. I mean, I know that's been that way for me, certainly.
I have to say, my voice teacher, Lee Sweetland, and then his son, Steve Sweetland, who I studied with forever. Once I got off the road with the band, I started studying with them, and I got more into musical theater
Gotcha.
and classical training. Not to perform classical, but I did a lot of arias with them because it's a wonderful tool to figure out how to sing.
Yeah.
So he said to me many, many years ago, I want to say like 25 years ago.
Right.
One day when I was at my lesson, I was really frustrated because I hit kind of a wall and I couldn't figure out how to get through it. And there's whatever was going on. And I was very frustrated. And he just looked at me and he said, Chelsea, this is not all for naught. And there was something about the way he said it. It was like he went with like a little dart
Yeah.
and it went right into me and it landed. And I've never forgotten it.
Aww.
And just this summer doing La Mancha,
Yeah.
before I would go on stage to do my first number. And that is a bitch to sing that musical.
Yep.
It is all over the place. The range is like low and high and you're belting and then you're doing legit. And I would think about it many times before going on stage. And I thought, oh, you're right.
That's awesome.
It's not all for naught. And that was many years to get to that, but I get it because my voice held up like a champ.
Wow,
Fantastic.
that's amazing.
And there's no shortage of coaches in the LA area in general, let alone the US. So I'm sure just finding someone you connected with was particularly exciting because you could find some that didn't always have the best advice. So good job. Congrats on that.
Yeah, I was lucky.
That's awesome. Well, I guess just to wrap things up, Chelsea, now that you've closed La Mancha, that was in August, I think, right? That you guys wrapped that up. So taking a little bit of a breather, but what's next for you, if anything, or is it just time to enjoy time with your family and go do some fun things?
Well, my kids are all grown and they're off doing their thing. And so I had a kind of a epiphany while I was up in Peterborough with the Peterborough Players.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I'm back. Elsie's back.
Yes.
Like I've spent the last 30 years being a mom, a stepmom, a wife, a organizer, a freaking producer of our life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was pretty exciting. And I don't know what's next. I don't have anything right on paper, but I'm really open. I'm super open to doing theater, musicals. I love that. I just love that area of entertainment.
I love that spirit. So if anyone needs someone to play one of your relatives, I'm Nicole Freer, and I'm available.
Shameless.
Awesome.
I'd love to.
The very younger sister.
Well, I'll take it.
Or daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Chelsea, I appreciate you, as we've referred to you before, classing up the joint. So, some of these movies that we talk about, let's just say the acting isn't always top tier, okay? And so every once in a while, we'll be watching a scene and then some actor, thank God, will come in and class the joint up with real acting. And that was you in a lot of the movies that we talked about. We're like, so every time Chelsea Field came on screen, it was like, oh, thank God. I appreciate you have been fantastic throughout your career. And thanks for taking some time to sit and talk with us just about your career and acting and everything. It's been really thoughtful and we appreciate it.
Well, that is very sweet, James. I have a lot of movies that are on the list of bad movies rule.
Oh, so can I just tell you, we have a list 1,400 movies long that fans keep sending us. Got to do this, got to do this.
Oh.
And I know there's other Chelsea Field movies we haven't gotten to, right?
Some that I don't even remember. Literally, somebody said, "Oh, you were in Death Spawn." I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
I was.
I know.
I literally have blacked out certain jobs.
So we didn't bring that up because we haven't done it yet, but I have Death Spot on the list. So someday we will do it, and I'm sure it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I have no doubt.
I literally will have no stories for that because I for sure don't remember anything. I didn't even know. I mean, literally people will say, "Oh, do you do this?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And they're like, "Yeah, I Googled it." And I'm like, "Really?"
Here's your picture right here. There you are.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Chelsea. I appreciate it. And down
You're
the road,
welcome.
After we do a couple more, we reach back out and get back together again. We appreciate it.
Yes, please.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.
What a gal.
Awesome.